Hello everyone, and in this video we will be walking you through the process of rigging this character called Grumpy Guardian, or Grumpy for short. He's kind of like Shrek if Shrek was an alien. Anyway, we will be doing the rigging in After Effects, so if you have not installed the software, go ahead and install it and boot it up. In addition to After Effects, we will be using a free plugin called DUIK Angela. To access that software, or rather that plugin, head to your Polite Mall and click on the link, which will bring you to this page over here, the download page for DUIK Angela. And scroll down, you can see that it is possible for you to make a donation to support the developers for this plugin, but since we are students using it for education purposes, we will just continue to scroll down and you can click on this done, take me to my download. Of course, in the future, if you are using it for professional purposes, you can consider donating to them, but in this case we will just click on this button, which will load, and continue to scroll down and you can see this download button. Alright, so go ahead and download this plugin. I have the plugin downloaded over here, so it should come as a zip file. Right click and go ahead and extract this file. Alright, so let me just do it here. Oh, I should probably extract it into its own folder to make it neater. Alright, so once you have this, go back to your After Effects. So just click on File, Scripts, Install Script UI panel, and then navigate to the folder in which you have unzipped DUIK Angela. Go to Scripts, Script UI panels, and select all the files here. Okay, and then go ahead and click on select. In this case, I will not do that because I've already installed the scripts. Okay, if you forgot how to do it, you can actually refer to the readme file over here, and the installation instructions are over here. Yes, here. Okay, whatever I just did. Of course, you can choose not to install it and instead run it every time you open After Effects. So this can be handy if you are working using the school PC and you may not have the admin rights to install the plugin. The only downside about this method is that every time you boot up After Effects, you need to run this script again, whereas installing it would make it open by default. Okay, so once you are done installing the script, After Effects will prompt you to restart After Effects. Okay, so please go ahead and restart your After Effects. In this case, again, I have already installed the script, so I will not restart my After Effects. Instead, once you have restarted your After Effects, go to Window and click on DUIK Angela to boot up the plugin. So click on it, right, and wait for it to load. Okay, so by default it should exist as a floating panel, something like this. Okay, so to kind of dock this panel onto the rest, alongside the rest of the UI, simply click on the DUIK Angela text. Okay, don't click on this Windows bar here. Click on this name. Okay, and then drag, and probably you want to drop it somewhere, so usually I will just dock it over here. Okay, and then you will have this DUIK Angela panel nested in the UI, and every time you open up After Effects, it will be there. If let's say next time you are not working, you're not using DUIK Angela for your After Effects task work, you can simply close it by clicking on this button over here. Oops, this button over here. Okay, and click on Close Panel. This will close your DUIK Angela panel. Okay, let me start by walking through the UI elements for After Effects for those who are not familiar with the software. Okay, so the top we have our usual menu bars over here, and below it you can see that there are some toolbars. Okay, to the left there is a project panel. If I can use 3D as an analogy, this would be similar to the outliner from Maya. In the middle we have the composition panel. This will be similar to your viewport in 3D. And then at the bottom we have the timeline, okay, which is kind of similar to your layers in Photoshop. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is to download the Grumpy Guardian PSD file from Polite More. Okay, before we go ahead and import this file in, let me just do a quick walkthrough of the setup of the file, okay, and explain why I did certain things that way. Okay, so if you open up this Grumpy Guardian PSD file in Photoshop, you will see Grumpy Guardian, but you will also observe that the mouth looks very weird, and that is because I have created the different mouth shapes for the character, okay, based on the sound that he is supposed to make. Okay, so by default all of this should be visible, and therefore when stepped it looks a bit strange. You can also observe that the individual parts are being sort of broken up into their own individual layers. Okay, the process that we are using is called 2D skeletal animation. Alright, this is different from your frame by frame animation that you did in 2D animation, where you are redrawing every single frame of that animation, of that movement. Instead, over here we are telling After Effects to do the transition for us. Okay, so in a way it's again kind of similar to animating in Maya, where you are just doing the key poses and then the software is doing the in-between sort of transition for you. Okay, so for that we will need to break up our characters into the different parts to enable this mode of animation. Okay, so as you are working on your assignment, you can always come back and refer to this PSD file for I guess reference on perhaps how you can dissect your character. Okay, so going back to After Effects, let us import in this Grumpy Guardian.psd. Okay, so you can simply just drag and drop this into the project panel, okay, which will bring up the dialog box. So under import kind, you can choose the last option, composition retain layer sizes, and just make sure that you set it to be editable layer styles. Right, the first option, and click OK. Okay, by doing so, you will see that it has imported your PSD files into a composition, okay, which I will explain later, and it also has the individual layers over here. Okay, so let us just double click on this Grumpy Guardian. So this in itself is a composition, as you can see, the different layers over here in the timeline. Okay, so let me just briefly explain the difference between a project and a composition. So once again, using my 3D analogy, a project is similar to your 3D project. Okay, remember when you create a 3D scene, your 3D lecturer will most likely tell you to set project, and this will create a project directory in your computer. Okay, so similarly, in After Effects, a project is basically a directory of sorts where it stores information, and then the compositions itself, you can relate it to the individual 3D scenes files. Okay, so in this case it is a collection of information within the project. Okay, so there's project and there's composition. Whenever you are saving After Effects, let's say we want to save this. Okay, save as, and then let us select our location to save this. Okay, yeah, we can save this rig 1 demo. Okay, so this will save the entire project. However, do note that the assets inside them are separate files. Okay, so let's say if I go over here and I cut out this file. Okay, this is just for demonstration purposes. I cut out and put it outside the folder. Now this Photoshop file is no longer there. Okay, but the After Effects project file is still there. And if we go back to this, okay, you will see that it says that it's missing files and all these files can no longer be found. Okay, so just take note of that. Okay, the After Effects project file simply saves the project. Okay, it does not save whatever assets that you are using. So if you move the assets around, things will become missing. Okay, so make sure that you always store them in the same folder. Okay, so that will be my advice. Always create a folder first, and then you put all your assets inside there. You put your After Effects working file inside there as well. So right now I've shifted the Grumpy Guardian back into this folder, and right now if I go back to my After Effects, it should reload. But if it doesn't reload, I can just select all of them and click on reload footage. Okay, reload footage, and then okay, if it doesn't refresh, you can always do a close and open again. It should refresh accordingly. It could be a visual bug. Okay, so now that we have this, let us open up this Grumpy Guardian composition, which will reveal all these layers within the composition to us. You also notice that conveniently they have created a separate composition for the mouth shapes, which will come in handy later when we are doing lip sync. Okay, let us get started with rigging, and let us begin with rigging the character's right arm. And I say right arm even though it is on the left side of the screen, because usually I would name the parts based on the reference point of the character. So in this case, this is the character's right arm, and I will name it accordingly. Alright, so select the right arm, and if you feel that the other elements on the composition is a bit distracting, what you can do is under the timeline panel, there's this button over here that you can click. It's a little bit small, so let me zoom in on it for you. Alright, this button over here, you can click on this, and basically is what it will do is it will isolate that layer. Okay, and you can go on and isolate more layers if you want to show them. Another thing, if you find that the black background is a bit hard to see, you can also go under composition settings, and change this color into perhaps something brighter, or at least not black. Okay, just take note that this composition background will not affect the final render. Okay, this will not be shown in the final render. It's just something for you to see, for you to preview. Alright, if you actually want a gray color as a background, you need to do something else, which I will go through much later. Okay, so going back to this, I have isolated this arm. Okay, to zoom in, simply use your mouse scroll wheel. If you need to pan the canvas, or at least pan this viewport, you can just click and hold the middle mouse button. Alright, so with that selected, what I want to do is I want to create what we call puppet pins on this arm. Okay, so I will proceed and show you step by step how to do it. Okay, once I have completed rigging the arm, I will then go and explain why I do it that way. Alright, so just trust me on this and see how I do it. Alright, so after selecting the arm, I will click on this puppet position pin tool. Okay, that is located at the tool panel over here. Alright, and I will want to set up 3 pins. Alright, so 1, near the pivot of this arm, or roughly where the shoulder is supposed to be. One roughly where the middle point of this arm is supposed to be. Okay, and then finally one at the tip of Grumpy's middle finger. So somewhere around here. Okay, so we have this 3 points. Okay, and we can immediately click, and you can see that you can preview this. Okay, so let me just undo it. One thing, it'll be best if you can rename your pins. So under the timeline panel, expand on mesh, expand on deform, and let me just go ahead and rename these pins. So just select the relevant layer and click on enter, and here I will name it hand. Click on the middle one, I'll just name it lower arm R. Okay, maybe I should put in the side, and then this I will rename it as arm R. Okay, so something like this. Alright, next we want to select these 3 pins. Okay, go under the DUIK Angela panel, and we want to navigate to this 3rd tab over here that says links and constraints. Alright, and then we want to click on add pin. Right, add pin. So just click on this. There will be a warning or a pop-up dialog box controls. In this case, I will just click on hide layer controls and then just let it run. Okay, basically what it's doing right now is it's creating a UI. It might be a bit tough to see over here. Okay, let me just set this to full. Okay, you can see that there's this pin icon that is created, and the pins that we created just now was parented to this pin icon. Okay, and you can see also in your timeline that there are 3 additional items that are being created. Okay, so the idea is that you don't animate it in the layer itself, but rather you will be using these icons to animate it. But we are not using these icons. We are in fact going to parent it to a bone structure. Okay, but before we can do that, let us manually parent the pins, because right now you notice that when, let's say I'm moving this pin, for example. Sorry, when I'm moving this pin, for example, by right it should be moving the whole arm, right, and not just this part. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to parent the child, okay, down the chain upwards. So the hand R will be parent to the lower arm R. The lower arm R will be parent to the arm R. Okay, so the way that you parent, let me just undo it again, is to click on this swirl symbol over here, click and drag, and then just parent it accordingly, like so. Alright, so once we have done that, if you were to move this, you'll notice that everything moves as a chain. Okay, so let me just undo that. And next we will want to select the parent, which is arm R, control select the chains down the hierarchy, so lower arm and then hand, and then we want to go to the 2nd panel, which is to the bones panel in DUIK Angela, and we want to click on this humanoid. Okay, which will bring up these options: arm, leg, spine, and hair. Okay, so we want to because this is the arm, so we want to use arm. Okay, so we will click on this options button that is beside this arm button to bring up the arm options. Okay, so we can designate what is the orientation. So this is the front arm, okay, based on our 2D asset, and this is the right arm. Okay, so we click on this to toggle this and change this to right. For this particular asset, we don't have a shoulder. Okay, we did not create a shoulder pin, so we only have, oops, it ran away. So let me just click that again. It doesn't have the shoulder. It only has the arm, forearm, and hand. Okay, so once all this are correct, okay, you want to hold down the control button and click on the arm. Okay, important, hold down control button and click on the arm. If you do not hold down control button and click on this, it will still create the bones, but it will not parent the pins to the bone, and you have to do it manually. Okay, so to save you one step, hold down control and click on the arm, and it will create the bone structure for you. So over here you can see that it has already created a bone structure. Alright, and it has a tail for the arm, right? Or rather they call it a tip. So for now, let's just move this tip to somewhere here at the base of the asset, okay, so that it doesn't poke out. Okay, so now you have this arm over here, and it will just basically do what we could have already done just now. Okay, but there's a reason why we are creating this bone structure. Alright, next what we want to do once again is to select the parent of this hierarchy, hold down control and click on the subsequent children down the hierarchy. So with the arm bone selected, hold down control and click on forearm, hold down control, click on hand, hold down control, click on arm underscore tip. Okay, and then next we want to click on this auto rig button. Okay, so it says automatically rig armatures. Okay, so click on this auto rig, and once again it will come up this warning tab. Okay, just click on hide layer controls. Okay, and once that is done, you will see that in your timeline panel, there is one new item that is created, okay, called C arm. So if you look at this, right, DUIK Angela has automatically helped us to rename stuff. Okay, the pins have a P initial, the bones have a B initial, and their controller have a C initial. And as you can see, the naming is done for you. Alright, and let us, since we have done this arm, right, let us test it. Okay, you can select on this controller and you can move it, and you can see that right now the IK chain is being activated. Okay. You can select on this controller and you can move it around, and you can see that this IK chain is being activated. And right now you can tell, of course, that there is some lag. Okay, so if you find that the preview is very laggy, you can click over here. Instead of full, you can set it to quarter. So what this means that it just makes the resolution a bit lower. Hopefully when you are moving things around, it feels a bit more snappy. But no doubt it's not going to be buttery smooth, unfortunately. Okay, there will be some form of lag. Okay, at the end of the part 2 of this video, I will maybe share some tips on how to make After Effects work a bit faster, and also how to reduce the file size, because as you are working in After Effects, later on you will start to see that it's eating up a lot of space in your computer. Okay, so anyway, we have set up this chain for the arm. Okay, and as I mentioned just now, I will quickly run through why I did certain things that way. Okay, so the first is we set up the puppet pin. Okay, so if you were to look at DUIK Angela tutorials online, so let me just pull up one for example, you will notice that there are a few approaches when it comes to rigging IK chain. Okay, like an arm for example. Okay, so in this video it says that there are two methods of rigging it. The first approach, right, is to just use bones, okay, without puppet pins. Okay, however, this approach, right, if you watch the video, it will require you to break up the graphic into different components, meaning to say your upper limb needs to be a PNG by itself or a layer by itself, the lower limb needs to be a layer by itself, and the hand needs to be a layer by itself. Okay, so let me just mute this and just play it. Okay, yeah, so as you can see the person walking through, and this might work depending on the art style that you are creating your asset to be. In this case, for our Grumpy Guardian and also for your assignment, right, I think it will be more challenging to make a seamless division of your limbs to be this way. If you are to do this, right, most likely when you are rotating the arm, right, the arm will break because it's just harder to cut up the arm like that when the art style that you're using is a bit more complicated or have features like outlines. Okay, for a simple art style like this, like what's in the video, it is perfectly fine to use this approach. Okay, what we are using instead is actually a combination of the puppet pin and the bone structure. So we kind of have the best of both worlds. Okay, so to explain puppet pin is actually a feature that can be found in most Adobe software. Okay, so even in Photoshop, there is this puppet pin function. Okay, so for example, having selected this arm layer, I can go under edit and there's this puppet warp. So I can click on it and you can see that it brought up some 3D mesh looking thing. Okay, and I can set up puppet pins like how I did in After Effects. Okay, and once these pins are set up, I can actually click and shift the pins to repose that character. Okay, so this feature is kind of similar to that you saw in After Effects as well. Okay, so let me just don't apply. Okay, and let's go back to After Effects. Okay, so what we did was we set up the puppet pin. We parented the puppet pin to this puppet pin controllers. Okay, and then using this puppet pin controllers, we then created the bone structures that is parented to it. And then with these bone structures, we created the IK. Okay, and you may feel that, wow, that's very convoluted, but it, like I mentioned earlier, it gives you the flexibility of having this bone IK chain, but also the flexibility of making this arm one single layer. You don't have to break it down into upper limb, lower limb, and the hand. Okay, it can just exist as one layer like this. You may find that because of that, right, the deformation is not as nice as you may want. In this case, Grumpy is a very cartoonish character, so it is fine if the limbs are a bit more jelly-like, like it's a bit more rubber hosey like this. Like it's not defined, it's not like a clear L shape like what the bones is showing. Okay, if you want a more defined L shape kind of band like what is shown in the bones, what you can do is I can select this arm R layer again, okay, and bring out and expand this layer to show this puppet pin, the initial puppet pins that we created. We can actually go over here, click and hold on this puppet pin, puppet position pin tool, and select the second item, which is called puppet starch pin tool. Okay, we can add additional pins, okay, but these pins will be color coded in red. Okay, so watch what happens when I create another pin that is near this lower arm pin. Okay, you can see that the deformation is a bit straighter. Okay, I can create another one here also. So you can see that now it has more of an L-shaped bend. Okay, so if your character is so-called more realistic and you want the deformations to be a bit more realistic, right? This is what you can do. Okay, so in fact, maybe the position of my first pin can be better. Yeah, so that this shape is a bit more defined. It's a bit more of an L shape rather than a C shape just now. Okay, but in this case, like I said, Grumpy is a cartoony character, so I will not add this additional starch pins. Okay, but you can consider that if you want to make your character to be a bit more realistic. Okay, so let me just undo everything so that the controller is reset to the original position. Okay, maybe I undo it too much. Okay, so now we still have the controller. Yep. Okay, so let me just repeat this step for the left arm. Okay, so let me just select all these layers and unsolo it so I can see the rest of the character again. Click on this and solo it. Okay, so I can just see this arm. Alright, and I will just quickly repeat the process, okay, for this arm. So I will be a bit faster, so because I don't need to explain every step. So click on the arm, right click on puppet pin, create 3 pins like so. Alright, rename the pins. So the third one we call it hand L, middle one call it lower arm L, top one call it up, no, just call it arm L. Right, select these 3 pins, go to the third tab, click on add pins, hide layer controls. Okay, this will create pins for you. You may want to shift this pin layer upwards. It doesn't matter, it's just more for organization purpose. Alright, and be sure to parent them accordingly. So the hand L goes to lower arm L, lower arm L goes to arm L. Alright, then control click and select down the chain. Go back to your bones, click on humanoid, click on settings for arm. Now change it to back. It's now the left arm. Hold down control, click on arm. Okay, you create a bone structure like so. Okay, you may want to shift this so that it's at the tip of the asset. And then similarly, select on arm, hold down control, select down the chain, click on auto rig, hide layer controls. Okay, and then we should have an arm rig like this. Okay, so in this case it is bending correctly. That's the direction that we want the arm to bend. Okay, but let's say let me just unsolo everything. Okay, this is correct. That is the direction we want the arm to bend. But let's say we want to kind of pose Grumpy in more like a hands on the hip kind of pose. Alright, in which the arm should be bending this way, the opposite way instead. Okay, what you can do is you can select on this controller, and then in the effects control panel, which is the same panel as your projects panel, you can go under, let's see, under this side. Okay, and you can set it to be -100. Okay, so once I have done so, and when I shift this IK controller, right, you will notice that the arm is bending the other way. Okay, so that's one thing to take note, but I actually don't need this, so let me just set it back to 100 so that it is bending the right way. Okay, something like that. Okay, with the completion of the rigging of the arms, let's move on to the spine or the body itself. So select the body layer and go ahead and solo it, and then go back to your puppet position pin 2. In this case, I will probably just create 3 pins on the spine. If you are creating a more realistically proportionate character, you may want to consider having more pins. Okay, but in this case, because Grumpy is quite a stylized character, I will just go with 3. So 1 at the pelvis or hips, the other one in the middle, which will probably control the torso, and then lastly the tip over here to control the head. And then in this case, because it's quite a chubby character, I can create an additional pin at the belly so that we can do some belly wiggling during animation. Okay, next we would proceed to rename these pins. So let me just rename this belly. This one I can call it head. This one I can call it torso, and then this one I can call it pelvis or hip. Alright, so now that we have this, select all of them, go to the third tab over here, links and constraints, and click on add pins, hide layer controls. To create the pins, I will shift them up above my Photoshop layers, and then I will do the parenting. So the torso will parent to the hip, the head will parent to the torso, and in this case the belly, I will want to parent it to the torso instead of the head. Right, it just makes more sense. Alright, and then I would select the hip, torso, and head, just these three pins, and I will do a bone, humanoid, spine, but I'll click on the gear icon for the options. Leave head checked. Neck layers 0. I don't have a neck. Again, if your character is someone who is a bit more proportionate, you may want to have a neck. For spine, I will just put 1, and so I have 1 spine, 1 head, and 1 hip. Okay, and remember, before you click the button, remember to hold down the control key so that the bones that are created will be parented accordingly. Control, click. Okay, so I have the spine created for me. Let me just shift down the end so that it's within the asset. Right, so with that done, let me scroll up to find the bones for the spine. Alright, and let me just go ahead and select them. So hip, torso, head, and spine tip, and I will go to auto rig and click on it, and click on hide layer controls. Okay, so this process is similar to creating the arms. Alright, with that done, you will notice that there are a few controllers that have been set up for you on the viewport. Right, so if you scroll in, zoom in, you will find this head controller over here, which will control the head. Okay, sorry, it's a bit laggy. Let me select on it again, and you can see that it moves the head. And then we have this rib cage thing that is a controller that is controlling the torso. We also have a hip over here which controls the hip. And then lastly, we have this body control which controls the whole body in general. But you'll notice that for this belly, we do not have a separate controller for it, but I think it's okay to just animate on this pin later on. Okay, so we'll leave it as it is, and let us just unsolo to review the rest of the layers. Alright, next we will move on to the legs. So let's select on the right leg and solo it. Alright, and for the puppet pin on the leg, we'll do a bit more than the arm. So let's select the puppet position pin too. Click on the pivot point of the thigh. Click on the pivot point for the knee. And then at the bottom over here, we need to create 3 pins. So one around where you think the heel would roughly be, and then one at the middle of the foot, and one at the tip of the foot. So something like this, 5 pins in total. And let us go ahead and rename those pins. So pin number 5, I'll just call it toe tip R. Okay, and then we'll have toe R, and then we'll have foot R, and lower leg R, and leg R. Okay, so let's select all of these pins and go to links and constraints, add pins, hide layer controls. Okay, this will create 5 different pins, and let us just shift up. Alright, next we will need to parent the pins accordingly. So the toe tip will parent to the toe will parent to the foot parent to the lower leg, and lower leg parent to the leg. Okay, so let's select all these pins, and then we go to bones, humanoid, leg, click on the gear to bring up the options, and we want to set it to be front and set it to be the right foot, and we want to make sure that thigh, calf, foot and toes, which may not be activated by default. You may want to check this toes, and hold down Control and click on the leg. Okay, this will create the bones for this leg. Alright, and then let us select on the bones. Okay, and select down the chain and go to auto rig and click on auto rig, and click on hide layer controls. Okay, so once that is done, you should see this foot controller over here. Let me just set it to full so that it's a bit easier for you to see. So you can see over here that there is a working IK for the foot, right? And besides that, there's also some foot roll options. So I can scrub on this foot roll value, and you can see that, you know, this foot roll option functionality has been created for me. There's also the heel, there's also tiptoe if you need to do that in your animation. Okay, so once that is done, let us unsolo it and move on to the other leg. So click on this left leg and solo it. Place the pins, the knee, the heel, the foot and the toe. Okay, and then let's rename it toe tip L, toe L, foot L, lower leg L, and leg L. Okay, select all of them. Go to links and constraints, add pins, hide layer controls. Okay, shift this up, and then remember to parent them. So toe tip to toe, toe to foot, foot to lower leg, lower leg to leg. Okay, and then select the whole hierarchy. Go to bones, humanoid, leg, and this time around set it to back and left, and control, holding down control, click on leg. This will create the bone chain, and then select the bone chain from the parent, which is the thigh, all the way down. Click on auto rig, hide layer controls. Okay, and you will get this leg IK done. So let us just unsolo everything. Alright, and with that you would have a very basic humanoid rig. Okay, if your character is just a regular bipedal character, this is basically it for the rigging of the body. Of course, for Grumpy, he also has a wing and he has facial elements as well, which we will explore in the following video. But for now, let us hit save. And before kind of closing out this video, there's several things that you can do to kind of clean up your rig that you have so far. So maybe I can just go into it a bit. Right, so let's start with this hand control. Let's click on it. And right now you'll notice that this hand is kind of overlapping, or like it's appearing on top of the finger, which is fine. I guess you can still use it to kind of move the character. But it can be a bit hard to select, right? It can also be a bit hard to spot because it's kind of like blue on this green color. So what you can do is you can select on this controller and come over here to the effects control panel. Okay, what you can do is you can expand this icon parameter, and you can actually slide this thing out. Okay, sorry, slide more to this side. No, actually I want to slide it downwards like this, like so. Okay, so it's like outside the body. What I can also do is to rotate it so that it is facing downwards, so that it kind of matches the hand that I have for the character. Maybe I slide it back up a bit, just position it nicely like so. I can also increase the size of this so that it's easier to see. And one last thing I can do is I can change the color of this. So maybe click on this and I give it like a maybe like a orange color or something, right? Something like that. Okay, similarly I can do the same for this leg as well. Select on the foot controller, expand out this icon and just slide it downwards. You can also orient it so that it is the same orientation as the leg. I can also increase the size, something like that, slide it back up. And then for the color, I would maybe choose the same color as this right hand. Okay, then I'll do the same for the left arm control. Okay, slide it downwards, rotate it. Okay, and then maybe make it bigger. Okay, and then for the color, maybe I choose something different, maybe a green color. Okay, to denote that it's another side of the character. Okay, and then let me select on this. Left foot control, slide it downwards, rotate it. Okay, and then I can make it slightly bigger. Okay, something like that, and let me just pick the same green. Okay, so this can be very useful, especially if, let's say, your character is very complicated, it has a lot of different moving parts, to be able to just tell what side of the controller are you controlling. Okay, so sometimes because of the, maybe you're animating a walk cycle, you might be confused as to whether this is the right foot or the left foot. Okay, at least if you color code it, it'll be quite obvious. And then in terms of animation, for the spine, usually you would use more of this part over here, right? This spine icon. To move the body. So maybe what we can do is we can shift it up and make it a bit more prominent. So let me just shift this one upwards. Over here, and then increase the size a bit. Maybe that's something like that. And right now, all these controllers and bones, they are existing as separate entities. So when I'm moving this spine, it's not moving the rest of the body. Right, so to make it function more like a regular skeleton system that you will see in your 3D software, we will need to do some parenting. So this thigh will need to be parented. Sorry, this thigh will need to be parented to the thigh will need to be parented to the body. So that when you are doing this, it is moving like so. Then this thigh would also be parented to the body, so that you can do things like that. Alright, and then this arm over here should be parented to the body as well. So see body, and this arm as well. Okay, parented to the body. Okay, so let's move this around to check. So right now you can see that the arm IK controller is not moving, which we actually want it to move. So let us click on this and parent that to the body as well. Click on this, parent that to the body as well, so that when you're moving the body, the arm moves, alright, but the feet stays in place. Okay, and you can still animate the arms, no problem, like this. Okay, the feet can also be animated like so. Okay, so that is it for this video, and in the next video we will be talking about how to rig the wings and also creating facial controls for your character.